to Women in Tech Republic's Diversity and Inclusion panel event. For those of you that may be new to our event, as a bit of background, Women in Tech Republic is a Third Republic employee-led effort that challenges the gender imbalance that exists among software engineers. Our mission is to connect, inspire, and develop the careers of female technologists in order to make a technology a more diverse and inclusive working environment. This evening, we're joined by Belen, Natalia, Donna, and Pooja, who will kick off the evening with their thoughts on the key topic of the event, which is embedding a culture of inclusion. What we're going to do is then split off into 3 breakout rooms to give you the chance to share your own experiences on our subtopics. And then we'll recap at the end on what we discussed in the rooms and the chance to network with your peers. I'm now going to pass you over to our lovely Natalia.
Hello. I hope everyone is having a good day. So as Serena said, my name is Natalia. I am a senior engineering manager at Lantum, a startup whose software is currently being used to deliver, to organize the workforces to deliver COVID vaccines across the UK. The topic, embedding a culture of inclusion, is it's actually quite dear to my heart. So I'm really happy to be involved in this event and being able to talk about it. Working in software engineering, I have often felt, the feeling of being on the outside, like I don't really belong. There are times where, well, quite often actually, where I've been the only person on a team that looks like me. I've often had my ideas discounted, only to be thought it was a good idea when someone else said it. And I have often been interrupted repeatedly. And despite being a manager for years now, I still have it quite frequently where I'll meet someone and they will not assume me to be an engineering leader, but immediately assume me to be someone in the people team or from another area of the business. And to me, striving for a culture of inclusion and belonging are just essential within the workplace. I believe that a great workplace is one that represents the world that we live in and how beautifully diverse it can be. I believe that we should strive to bring a variety of different perspectives to the table and to create an environment where just everyone has a voice and everyone should just feel valued, empowered, and ultimately know that they matter. We know that there are low numbers of women and low numbers of people of color within the industry. However, when you think of the users of technology and when you think of the users, the people who use the technology that you are part of creating, how well does the diversity in your company reflect your user base? I'm sure that we've all heard stats about how diversity is good for business, and it makes sense because after all, we should be building for the many, not the few. This is true, but for me, it isn't just about being good for business. It is also about what is fair and what feels right. And personally, I just want us all to do better. Diversity is a big part of that, but I also want the tech industry in general to do more to make it a truly inclusive space. It makes me deeply sad when talented and motivated women I know leave the industry because they have just had enough. Either they don't feel like it is possible to have a career in tech and a family at the same time, or they've just gotten fed up with constantly having to fight to earn basic respect. It is exhausting to have to do this time and time and time again. And as a people manager, I feel deeply responsible for ensuring that the culture of the team that I manage is one where we all are created equal and opportunities are granted fairly, and where each person does feel like they have a voice. And I want to work in a place which cares about diversity, inclusion, and belonging as much as I do. And I feel a strong sense of responsibility to just do what I can, where I can. And to be honest, to all of you, I don't think I will ever feel like I'm doing enough, but I always keep trying to remind myself that the effort is there and this matters too, and that I'm not doing it alone. Events like this are a great reminder of how many other people care and are working to make things better wherever they can, and that the issues that I face being a minority in the tech industry are actually incredibly common. As much as I wish this wasn't so, it is powerful to know that you're not alone. And even the format of this event is really special, and I think complements the theme of embedding a culture of inclusion really, really well, because it isn't just us panelists speaking, but I very much look forward to hearing all of your voices as well. And I hope that you will feel empowered to be able to share your opinions and share your stories and actually just have a discussion. So in advance of that, I want to thank you all for coming, and thank you for sharing. And I'm going to hand over to Pooja, who's the next speaker.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Natalia. I'm a tech leader of color, a woman, a new mom, and I sometimes get credit by my male or white colleagues for my performance in Slumdog Millionaire. You know the movie. My name is Pooja Shankar. I am a senior engineering manager at YoungCapital, have been in the tech industry for over 10 years now. I'm here to talk about two things that resonate deeply with me. Being a first-time mom and figuring out breastfeeding is a hard journey in itself. For all the parents here, you know what I'm talking about. And when you have to do this at work, when you have to go out of meetings to pump milk, you have to excuse yourself. It is an awkward space, and it is your right to do it. But how awkward is it? Do your male colleagues know how to approach you? It is this space that I think can have a lot of improvement in terms of in having conversations, in giving information, in understanding how to approach each other. And I think by taking the time to understand how to talk about it, how to identify the struggles, and how to be normal about it is key. The second thing is that, remember, it's a double whammy for me. I always say this: I am brown, I'm a woman in tech. You know, you don't get your tech strategies from somebody like me. People often ask me how I experience racism or cultural stereotyping, and I never know for which of the two I'm being judged on. But I sure remember working harder than my white male colleagues, buying more expensive suits, and spending way more time in looking more professional. Whoever said that first impression is the best impression clearly did not know a thing about empathy. I will admit to you all right now, this is not the best impression of me. I am not feeling my best today. And whatever I'm sharing today with you might not be the best. But will you judge everything I am based on everything I share today? No, I know that. And that's because, you know, I'm human, I make mistakes. This, to me, this thinking is the basis of empathetic leadership. We all need second chances. Hell, we all need 15th chances. So I think it's really important that we know this. We all want to truly belong in groups, in societies, in places we work, because that's what brings us a sense of home. You know you belong. How can we do that? We can do that by actively hiring people from all genders, all cultures, and all ethnicities, and creating a diverse hub, a diversity hub. But that's not it. Diversity without inclusion doesn't just work. Why? Because we are in 2021. With all the abundance of tech we have, and we have enough tech to go to different planets. We have hoverboats to get to work. Not last year, but you know what I mean. And yet we don't know how to talk about each other's cultures. I often notice people walking on eggshells, trying to talk about my culture, but just don't know how to. It is important to recognize this. I am not offended when you call me brown. I am brown. I am not offended when you ask me the right pronoun to address me, but I am offended when you judge my character, my capabilities with my skin color, with my sexual orientation, or when I'm being singled out for any of these things. I would say, look for the invisible bias and the obvious privilege. With that thought, I would like to invite Belen to introduce herself. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Pooja. Really, I can relate also as a mom entrepreneur. I'm Belen Hein. I'm co-founder of Neurolytics. Neurolytics is a tech company, and we work in the area of HR and recruitment. And what we actually do is help organizations pre-select based on cultural fit and choose the right people for teams and organization in an objective way. And we do that with AI and video analysis. I'm really passionate about the topic of embedding inclusion in a culture. I was born in Argentina, and I've lived in Germany, in the US before coming to live in the Netherlands. And I've experienced both the sometimes positive effect of bias or inclusion, because I always looked, at least in the US or the Netherlands, I look white, or I am white. And so I was accepted as an insider, even though I was actually an outsider, having a Latino background. And as a woman also, I've also experienced gender bias, and that was one of the things that drove me actually to start my own company, Neurolytics. And it's I'm confronted with it every day as a woman entrepreneur and tech founder, but also in my own team. And I think for me, the main message around embedding a culture of inclusion is that in the heart of that is also understanding the biases that we all have, that we all share, and that harm actually all of us, although not in an equal way. And sometimes inclusivity is brought as a topic of the minorities, but it's also something that benefits all teams and everyone in the team. And my thoughts around this is that it starts with awareness, with events like this, where we can talk about it and discuss and learn from each other and really understand what it's about. And there are already so many very concrete interventions and things that we can all do and keep in mind in our hiring, but also as managers, as leaders, and as colleagues. And I think that's really empowering. I think Pooja said it well, nobody's perfect, and we're all human and need to have empathy. And there's things that we can do to add or to create that inclusivity and that empathy in leadership in our teams and with our colleagues. And it starts with awareness, and then I think it continues also with data and understanding of what specific circumstances there are in certain cultures and organizations and where things are coming from. For example, I think Natalia said, there's a lot of misconceptions about her being a female engineer. Well, if we put more role models out there and empower young women in tech, then it also becomes more common, and that changes our biases and expectations. Yeah, that's my thoughts, and look forward to the breakout. I think Donna, you are next.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the words. This is very inspiring, to be honest, for me as well. So I'm Donna, and I lead today the global marketing technology at eBay. We serve around 30 different markets, and it's a very, very high volume kind of practice. I've been in the tech area and specifically marketing technology in the last 10 years. Started in Israel because I'm originally coming from Israel and came to the Netherlands 4 years ago. My breakout room will be focused on dealing with non-inclusive behavior. And I had some thoughts around that, obviously. And I came to realize that I want to actually talk about this topic from quite of a different angle, because when we hear non-inclusive behavior, immediately probably we think of maybe a bit abusive or words that we don't want to hear, and stuff you don't want to say, and to not make the other person feel uncomfortable, and to really we want to create a safe environment and a trusted environment, of course, for our people. I want to address it from a kind of a different perspective. I'm coming from Israel, and it's a completely different culture from the European one, for sure, but also from other parts of the globe. I needed to do a lot of really small cultural adjustments just to make my voice heard. And this is, of course, I'm a woman, I'm working in tech, but also I'm an Israeli, and I'm coming from the Middle East, and sometimes we raise our voice, and sometimes we talk very directly to people just because this is how we talk, without any, of course, harmful intentions. And there were a few times that I was accused by being non-inclusive, which is really on top of my mind all the time. And I want to create a trusted environment for everyone that I work with. And sometimes I was also accused. So I want to actually, in the breakout room, think of how inclusive are we when we are going to deal with non-inclusive behavior. How much do we see the background of that other person, and the whole person, actually, not only the background, but really the whole person, and what they bring to the table when we, as managers, as team members, dealing with non-inclusive behavior. Where is that source, where it starts from, and what the real intention? Yeah, so just maybe a point of thoughts for our breakout room.
Yeah, thanks for all of the introductions, ladies. It's great to hear what inclusion means to you, and just like a little on personal experiences and how it's affected all of you differently. Now we'll jump into the breakout rooms, and yeah, we'll just have a discussion based on the topic. Just before jump into discussion, I thought it'd be a really good idea just for like the panel speakers to maybe summarize some of the chats that happened within each room. And then obviously as a group, we can jump into a general discussion around all of it. I know, Natalia, you got cut off right at the end there. But we had a really great discussion within our group around empathetic and transformational leadership. So yeah, Natalia, if you just want to touch on maybe some of what was discussed.
Wonderful. I'll start, and if anyone wants to jump in, I'd love to hear from you. We started talking about what empathetic leadership means. So the importance of just listening first, the importance of not making assumptions, not assuming that you know, or assuming that a person feels that way, or assuming what you see and what you feel and what you think is what other people are seeing and thinking and feeling. The importance of putting like employees' needs first and creating space in your team. Someone in the group said, Ben, put it really nicely, of like creating space in the eye of the storm. And what that made me feel is like safety. And we talked about psychological safety. We talked about how a big part of empathetic leadership is also about creating an environment where you're building empathy within the team, creating a culture where people are helping out each other. It's not always just the manager too. It's the bit that I don't think I use this word, but it's about making sure that it isn't also just the leader doing it. People are feeling empowered to help themselves, help each other. They have a voice and they have this ability as well. And it's like the opposite of learned helplessness, if you know that term. We also talked about, one aspect is also to think about building bridges between people and building bridges between other members of other parts of the organization. And it's just about really just having like respect for people and respect for our differences. In the last part of the conversation, which maybe we can have a group conversation about a little bit later, is around how female leaders in tech in particular have gotten into their position. How have they found their own leadership style, given there isn't that many role models, and so it feels really difficult, and it's hard to find resources and role models.
We had a very interesting conversation, actually, and thank you very much for sharing as well, because we had some experiences coming from you guys, and it was really brilliant to hear. Not that good because it's not a really positive stories, but brilliant that you shared. I think the focus was really to see the whole person as he or she is, and with everything that they bring to the table, to be able to speak up, to create a trusted environment, a safe environment, so we would be able to speak up. Also arranging some workshops. So we, as I shared, we are doing culture mapping exercises, but of course we have a lot of those different workshops to start the discussion, and maybe from leadership, but going down to the entire organization, basically, to be aware of the differences between us and to be open about it, and to allow the other person to speak up, actually, if they feel uncomfortable. The last point maybe from me, we did talk about and Pooja, actually, you said that, but if we feel uncomfortable with something, probably it is. Probably it's just not comfortable, and we need to state that. And it's also our job to raise it and to bring it to awareness.
Yeah. If I may add to what I think we had a really powerful conversation now with everybody. So many great stories, so many powerful stories. I think a lot of them, I think we sort of ended up agreeing to each other because, well, I think one or the other way we've all experienced bias in different ways. I think for me, it's really important that we are the minority in majority of the organizations, especially in tech. It's really important to sort of stand up. It's really difficult to do that, and yeah, a lot of powerful stories on how it was difficult, people finishing your sentences, or ignoring you completely because or asking you to make notes. So many different things that women are particularly relevant to only women that men probably don't know. And I see that there are some men in the group they probably have experienced in meetings or boardroom meetings in your respective organizations. I think for me it's really important that we stand up. No incident is small, and no experience is small. It's definitely not you. So as challenging and as difficult as it is, I would say that it's important to stand up, and that was I think the conclusion from our group.
That sounds like a great discussion. We were in the breakout room about hiring and for diversity. We discussed a lot of interesting topics about everything from what do we do with the vacancy text? Are there things in there that we include that are not inclusive to certain people? For example, if you mention your vacancy text that you're having drinks or ping pong tables and things that are maybe not what a woman or certain people are interested in, that it's less attractive and interesting. We also talked about even biases that there are, for example, in having a lot of requirements in a job vacancy, and that women just naturally don't, if they don't tick 100%, they don't apply. There was a really good question about what do you actually do when you want to hire more women, but you already have a full male team? What kind of things might be off-putting to women that are actually applying there and that are going through the interview process? And our discussion was about that, and actually that if you want to change or want to be more inclusive, that you can be upfront in the hiring process to your candidates, like, this is where we're at. We're mostly men, but we're doing these things, interventions, and we want to bring diversity. So being also open and upfront and transparent about where you are and where you want to go can be really powerful also to being able to hire and convince women to join a mostly male team. We also discussed about practices such as looking throughout the recruitment process and looking at the data there, and to see where there are places maybe where there is bias or where women or people of color are not actually going to the next step and maybe be falling out of the recruitment funnel. So that was very interesting discussion, and a lot of, I think, practical things that people can pick up.
I think all in all it was really good and really insightful event, and it'd be great to kind of share. I don't know specifically, I know as you said, I think Alicia had mentioned that Natalia, you'd been cut off kind of towards the end, and I wasn't too sure specifically if there was anything or anyone wanted to speak up about and to ask maybe a question that didn't get answered in their room, or if anyone has anything they'd like to kind of bring to the table, then now would be a good time too.
One of the questions in the group is kind of like, how did you get to the leadership position as a woman, with everything considered? And I started to answer, but I'd love to open it up to the floor to see if anyone else wants to share.
I think I'd like to challenge that question slightly, just in that in asking, how do you do something as a woman? It's almost like the assumption that it's going to be harder, and perhaps it isn't always. And so I found a lot of my male colleagues very helpful, very positive, not all of them, but then I also haven't found all of my female colleagues positive or helpful. And so I mean, maybe it's my outlook more, but I don't see the difference between men and women in a way that I'm assuming that I'm going to find it difficult because I'm a woman. I'm more kind of assuming I'm just going to do it because I can do it. And I suppose I wouldn't want to negate the help I could get from men or the mentorship that I might benefit from a guy just because he's not a woman.
I love that you say that, Stella. I think one of the amazing things or interesting things about diversity as well is that we assume, for example, that men and women are different, or they have different behavior to other men or to women or to people of color, but biases are something that we actually all share. So a lot of the behavior that is not inclusive from men to women also do that to women. So yeah.
I think that is exactly a good reason why, even though, because I agree, I've seen both ways. I've seen both of those situations. For example, previous managers who kind of maybe felt threatened by me, therefore wouldn't help me. Like, it comes from both ways. But I do think within the question of, I see a female leader, can you tell me how you got there? I think there's also a part of seeing examples, so having role models. And I think that is why that question could still be relevant, even though it might not be the same for everyone. It might not mean that someone had a struggle as a female to get in a certain position, or as someone of color, or with any form of disability, but it could still be a good role model. And I have, while working in tech, I've had great male managers that I've been really lucky with, also from different cultures. But like, for the first time now, I have a female manager, and it is truly different. It's different in a way to see what is possible, because we do deal with looking at role models differently in a way, I think. So that's why I think it's still a very relevant question.
And I think some of the struggles are also very unique to women. Like I personally, I was breastfeeding last year, and yeah, my male colleagues found it really awkward to like, okay, should we follow her? Because I want to go to the toilet, but it's right next to the room where she will pump. So I don't know how to, these are these really awkward spots. And when we got out together, and she's like, okay, I don't know what to do. It's just that these things need dialogue. We need to have conversation. And although it sounds like, oh, it's just a conversation, it's about the message, right? I mean, well, how do you it should feel safe, it should feel open. It's the judgments that we have around these difficult topics that make it harder than it is. So I think that's why I think the question is still relevant, because some of the struggles are just so unique to women, and some men might be like, I've been in the industry for 20 years but never encountered this. I've had that. I've had those two in my career so far.
Maybe one comment from my side on that. And it's hard for me to admit that, but this is my personal development area. I am biased. I didn't have the luck to have like nice men managers, sometimes even abusive, sometimes for sure not promoting me anywhere, not empowering me. And I struggled a lot of years. It's not just one job or one place. I struggled a lot of years to be where I am today. And I am biased, and I am fully aware of that, because when I come to arrive to a first interview with a new company, for example, and I'm going through the process and I see a man interviewing me, immediately I want to protect myself somehow. And it is from my personal experience, of course, and I'm very much aware that I do not want to bring my background and my personal experience to the room with that specific man, because it's obviously not him. But really just wanted to share that, because I do have a challenge with that myself.
I think it works both ways. I've worked with almost exclusively men most of my career, and actually it puts me on the back foot to be working with more women, because it's familiar. working in an industry with mostly men. So it works both ways. And Stella, I completely agree with you. My answer is, how did you get to where you are? Hard work. And because and that's it. And I had help from both sides on the way, from men and women. So I really support what you say, Stella. It works both ways. And you were saying, we could have bias both ways, to women and to men. So interesting point.
I really, really love that discussion. That was brilliant. One of the things that it made me think of is a conversation I actually had with Caitlin, who's part of the Women in Tech Republic team. One of the things that we talked about was how we've experienced these things, and as Pooja said, some of these experiences might be unique to women, and I agree with that. But then the other question is, do you feel like it's held you back? And I love that question, because I had to say, I know or I don't know. Like, if it has held me back, I feel like I found another way forward. And I can't say that I'm not successful, I am. So have I had these experiences which are frustrating? Yeah. Has it held me back? And it was really interesting thinking about that. We delved into different topics around different levels of privilege that we all have as well, because naturally, I know that I'm quite a privileged person as well. I don't have a degree, I'm mixed race, I'm not from the country that I live, all of these things, but at the same time, I'm white passing, I'm tall. I know there's other ways, things that that have quite privileged me along the way. And it's very hard to measure that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was having a conversation today on that as well. And even things like your name, the name that you have, and how that can be either something where you're more likely excluded or included because of the name you have. So it's very interesting how deep it can go and how it can burst. Like I said, in my experience, I'm Latina, but I don't look like it. So that was an advantage that I had just because of how I look.
One thing I would like to mention is a lot of companies do have organizations that have to do with tech, and especially startups and so. Tackling these differences and issues and increasing the chances for female and other ethnic groups, etc., inside tech can be a lot easier when it starts at the startups. So I would suggest that you try to approach these kind of organizations in the countries you would like to start with. For instance, in the Netherlands, you've got TechLeap and the Dutch Startup Association. I think it will be really good to start a synergy between these kind of organizations and W.I.T Republic.
Thank you all for coming along this evening, and big thanks to obviously the speakers as well for helping to run the event. It's been so insightful, and it's always a really good event to run where you just come away from it, taking so much on and learning a lot as well. So yeah, really do appreciate the time to the speakers and also to all of you attending and making it interactive and conversational, because I'm sure speakers can agree they obviously learn a lot from it as well. So it's been really great to get together and to have the event this evening. Thank you all for coming along.